So Den is about to be launched, right? So we have a lot more info coming up, coming weeks. Yeah. We have mobile app coming out. We have the tokens that will be rolled out with the capabilities integrated into the UI, at least website. We have some DeFi components that are rolling out to help us with governance on a couple of things, and the white paper, hopefully will be finalized soon. Thank you.
Good work on that.
You've put in a bunch of effort into review and some really good helped us refine, because
I'm really good at tearing up somebody else's work.
No, but it's good because and I have to tell people the white paper is the equivalent of the sausage making. If you want to actually understand how it's tuned, so you can help us refine that, that's where you go. If you just want to use it, we're hoping to have a show coming up where we will describe the entire system and all the tokens at a very user-focused level. Here's what this token means Perfect. To you, right? And we have that. We have the the roles and rewards videos is kind of higher level, but there's some interesting pieces to it because. And I'll just hit upon this one thing because I'm coming to realize how to describe this best. That so we have evaluation, right, which is voting, and we decided that there's scarcity, but it's not a single vote per post or reply, right? In Reddit I can vote up or I can vote down, and then if 300 of us vote up, then we have plus 300. It must be a good post, right? We wanted to put an angle of, and there is an angle of, if you know anything about the wisdom of the crowd modeling, that you don't push, like I say, if I put 300 Bitcoin on something, and you put 1 Bitcoin on something, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's worth 301. It might just mean that I'm applying more heavy weight to it, but you really want, for wisdom of the crowd mechanics, to just count 2 votes in the positive, mm-hmm. right? And so we have some consensus mechanisms in there, so that if you throw a whole bunch of energy away on a post or reply and nobody else weighs in on it, it does count for something, but it's a very small amount.
I saw that in there. I was surprised to see it, but I liked it. It was attenuating massive upvotes or something it was called.
Yes, and it was basically because we found during the beta, we found that people were able to game the system with friends by voting on each other's, sharing, trading votes basically, which isn't horrible, but it upset the evaluation because, well, you're not really evaluating it if you just agreed to always vote up on somebody's posts. So what we do now is it throws away energy if you do that. And the interesting part that I'm just kind of realize how to describe is that the evaluation itself is rewarded. Like say, so if something trends, and we're going to be adding that in the negative as well. Right now it's only in the positive. If it trends in the positive, then you get thrown into a pool that is rewarded with a sizable chunk of the day's mining. And that it is that very evaluation, which is a marketplace itself. So I'm competing to determine which posts should be trending and which aren't with my votes. And it is that very evaluation that determines the content mining itself. That is how, so all of us together coming to consensus on, yes, in this layer, this post is the most important post immediately right now, today. And
it's incentive and competition.
Yeah. And so basically the people providing content are competing against each other to provide the best content. The people evaluating the content are competing against each other to predict which content is best and worst. And the owners of lot, the people who own layers, are competing against each other to attract the best content to their layer. It's an interesting thing that it's all, at least we hope, pretty well balanced.
Well, in theory, the more competition there is, the better the product becomes for the consumer. The consumer just being anybody who wants to wake up and read their coffee and read them. I like the information that is on this website, so I'm going to make it part of my routine.
Yeah, that's
what everything's for.
That's the total end goal.
Everything's focused on that person.
Yep. That's what's amazing, right? And it's
Without
all the
even,
other things.
like almost passively, like
Yes.
without even having a board meeting and saying who is our target demographic and how do we advertise to them.
Yes.
You
Yes.
create a competitive marketplace that incentivizes people to create the best content, period. And then like if you build it, they will come kind of thing. You know, if it's the best, it's the best.
Yeah, it should attract people to provide the best content, and it should attract people to come in and try to predict the content.
And what I like to tell people also is that most people are already doing this, and you might not even know it. You're writing for Facebook, you're writing for Twitter, you're creating content for social media, you're an influencer on Instagram, right? And you're making all of this money for these advertising-based companies, and that's the huge innovation that I see with Den, is that it offers another business model for a company to take on that provides the same or better product that does not compromise your conflict of interest, isn't weighing in on how the machine operates.
Yep.
And it's a way of, and then the money goes to the users. You know, like there's 5% that goes to Den. Sure, you got to pay the bills and run stuff and pay people, but just that you can evaluate something as great and then get rewarded in that with a tangible token of value. You can capture that value in a token, and it's not just like a WoW gold point that's minted off the server. It's as real as a nickel that you find on the sidewalk or something. Right.
It's interesting too, because you don't even have to believe in the content to know whether it's good or bad for that community. Is the other interesting piece. You know, you could be totally
for that community
opposed.
Being the interesting part.
Yeah, because we wanted to create scope, because it seems like, say, imagine having upvotes on Twitter. Which posts would be always top ranked? It would always be the most salacious or the ones with the most followers, right? I mean,
the ones that are already the most top ranked.
Right. And so you have to have some scope to know, okay, yes, the Pepe is not necessarily the best content if I'm looking for this type of content, right? But if I'm looking for something funny, okay, right, it's some meme or whatever else, right? So, anyway.
That's how do you that was one of the problems I had with Twitter at first, was how do you find your community in the beginning? You tell somebody, oh, on crypto Twitter or on Bitcoin Twitter. It's like, okay, how do I go to crypto? Is there a crypto Twitter section? Like, what do you mean? No, it's like because you get put into these circles, you just end up there.
Yeah, it's good and bad. It's very random, right? They don't have a really good, and I think I have heard very much that they are struggling with that. Whatever they're calling their families or channels or subjects. That
Jack was talking about that a little bit on Joe Rogan's podcast when he was on there, and it was when they were first coming out with the ability to follow a topic instead of just following people and hashtags and stuff. It was like, oh, maybe it was following hashtags, but anyway, it was an attempt at trying to have some way for you to manually jump into a different conversation if you weren't naturally put there by the algorithm.
Now something, and this is an interesting feature. I did I'm east of the lake in Seattle, and so I followed Seattle PD because there was something going on, and I was interested because there was concern of it was very recent, something where they were going to come over to our side. They're going to cross the bridges and start lighting fires or something stupid. And so I followed it, and Twitter asked me, do you want to follow these other? And it was a whole, like, basically all the local PDs and all it was an odd thing. It was like, oh, that's convenient.
It was like Netflix. It's the same kind of thing that they do with their algorithm. It's like, oh, if you like these or Amazon, you might also like these other products. Yeah, it's the same kind of algorithm. It might be the same company on both algorithms. Who knows?
Yeah,
who they're outsourcing that to.